Lucas was 24 years old when he realized he couldn't remember the last time he felt proud of himself. That thought hit him at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, scrolling through his phone in bed, watching strangers live lives that seemed impossibly far from his own. He wasn't failing exactly. He had a job, an apartment, people who cared about him, but somewhere along the way, he'd stopped moving forward. Days blurred into weeks, weeks dissolved into months, and Lucas just existed. He'd tried to change before. Everyone has. The gym memberships abandoned by February, the journals with 3 entries, the apps deleted after a week. Each failed attempt left him more convinced that maybe this was just who he was: average, unfocused, stuck. But here's what Lucas didn't understand yet. The problem was never his willpower. It was his strategy. One night, he stumbled across a concept that would quietly reshape everything. The compound effect. The idea that tiny, almost laughably small actions, repeated consistently, create results that seem impossible when you're standing at the beginning. Lucas was skeptical. He'd heard motivational promises before, but something about this felt different. It wasn't asking him to become a different person overnight. It was asking him to become 1% better, just 1%. So he made a decision that seemed almost too simple to matter. He would wake up 30 minutes earlier than usual. That's it. 30 minutes. Not to crush a workout or meditate for an hour. Just to read something meaningful, reflect on his thoughts, and plan his day with intention. The first morning was brutal. His alarm screamed at 5:30, and every cell in his body begged him to stay in bed. The voice in his head was loud. "This is pointless. You'll quit by Thursday. Just sleep." But Lucas got up anyway. He made coffee. He opened a book he'd bought months ago and never touched. He read 12 pages. Then he sat with a notebook and wrote down 3 things he wanted to accomplish that day. The whole ritual took 26 minutes, and honestly, he felt nothing special. No lightning bolt of motivation, no sudden clarity about his purpose, just a quiet sense that he'd done something small that mattered. That feeling, as unremarkable as it seemed, was the seed of everything that came next. The first 2 weeks were a war against himself. Some mornings he won. Some mornings his bed won. But Lucas kept showing up more often than he didn't, and slowly, something began to shift. By week 3, waking up early stopped feeling like punishment. His body started anticipating it. He noticed he was sleeping better because he was going to bed earlier. He was going to bed earlier because he wasn't mindlessly scrolling until midnight. One small change was already creating others he never planned. The books he read during those morning minutes started rewiring how he thought. Ideas about discipline, about taking ownership, about the stories we tell ourselves. Lucas began questioning the narrative he'd accepted for years, that he was lazy, that he lacked talent, that success was for other people. What if none of that was true? What if he'd just never given himself a real chance? By month 2, Lucas added something new. After his reading and planning, he started moving. Nothing extreme. A 20-minute walk around his neighborhood while the world was still quiet. The physical activity cleared his head in ways he couldn't explain. Problems that felt overwhelming at night seemed manageable by morning. His energy changed. Co-workers noticed. His boss noticed. Lucas wasn't doing anything dramatic at work, but he was more present, more focused, more reliable. Small opportunities started appearing. A project here, a responsibility there. Nothing that would make headlines, but enough to remind him that momentum is real. Here's what most people miss about transformation. It doesn't announce itself. There's no moment where trumpets sound and everything clicks into place. Change is quiet. It accumulates in the background while you're busy showing up. By month 4, Lucas barely recognized his own routine. The 30-minute ritual had expanded naturally. He was reading books every week instead of every year. He was exercising regularly. He was eating better because he had more energy and wanted to protect it. He was having deeper conversations because he had more to talk about. But the biggest shift wasn't external. It was the relationship he had with himself. For the first time in years, Lucas trusted his own word. When he said he would do something, he did it. That simple consistency rebuilt something that had been broken for a long time. His self-respect sown. And with self-respect came confidence. Not the loud, performative kind, the quiet kind. The kind that lets you take risks because you know you can handle failure. The kind that attracts people and opportunities because it's genuine. Lucas started a side project he'd been afraid to try. He reconnected with friends he'd been avoiding because he felt ashamed of his stagnation. He set boundaries he'd never had the courage to set before. None of this happened because he woke up early. That was just the door. What changed everything was proving to himself, day after day, that he was capable of keeping a promise. That evidence became the foundation for everything else. 1 year later, Lucas sat in the same apartment where this all began. Same bed, same phone. But he was not the same person. He thought about that night at 2 a.m., drowning in comparison and self-doubt. He wished he could tell that version of himself what was coming. But he also knew that version needed to struggle through the uncertainty. That was part of the process. The compound effect isn't magic, it's math. Small investments made consistently generate returns that seem disproportionate to the effort. But you have to stay in the game long enough to see them. Lucas almost quit dozens of times. The mornings when nothing felt different, the weeks when progress seemed invisible, the moments when his old identity tried to pull him back. But he kept going. Not because he was special, because he finally understood that the size of the action matters far less than the consistency of it. 30 minutes. That's all it took to start. 30 minutes to prove that change wasn't something that happened to lucky people. It was something you built, one unremarkable morning at a time. So here's the question that matters. What's your 30 minutes? What tiny habit could you start tomorrow that your future self would thank you for? You don't need to overhaul your life tonight. You just need to begin. The compound effect will handle the rest. If this story resonated with you, leave a comment telling me what small habit you're committing to. Subscribe if you want more content about real transformation. And remember, the best time to start was yesterday. The second best time is tomorrow morning.